Hey YouTube world, what's going on? Mark here from TST Industries, back in the garage. And in today's video, I will be guiding you through the installation process of the Womet-Tech Evos Shorty Levers on the KLX 230S and SM. Now, it is important to note, we do not have stock levers for this bike, so the installation process we are about to show you will be shown on a Ninja 400. When we purchased this bike used, it did not have any levers on it. We immediately installed our levers. That is why we do not have the footage for the stock levers on this particular model. However, with all that being said, we have verified the installation process. We have verified they fit and function just as you see. So the installation process you will see can be followed, with the finished look being a little different, being that it will be on this bike. These levers are anodized black, CNC machined, and by default, as you can see, come with a red adjuster, but we do have different color adjusters available, with black, blue, silver, and gold being an option on our website. If you want and are interested in swapping out those adjusters, we do have a separate video for that, so be sure to check it out. This is a pretty straightforward installation process, so let's go ahead and jump right in.
We're going to begin with the first step being the removal of this cable management strap. It has a little button that you need to get the strap around. Just like that, just comes apart. Then I'm going to loosen my clutch cable and try to keep the slots in alignment. I'm going to turn the barrel nut all the way in as far as it'll go while still maintaining this alignment. And I'm going to see if it's loose enough to just withdraw the cable, and it is. So now I'm able to take the cable end out, just push it down, and it'll clear. Now we need to get to a nut that's under here. And this nut will not accept a standard socket because there's not enough clearance between the nut and the sidewall of the switch. So what I'll do is I will be loosening this screw here. I'm using a 10mm socket to do that. This will free the clutch perch from its locked position on the bar. Now I'll be able to rotate this up. Now be careful when you do that. There's a switch here that has a wire plugged into it. We will clear the wire out, press this towards the wires. That unlocks this connector. And then we withdraw the connector, and now this is loose. Here is that nut I was talking about. It basically locks down the threads of this pivot bolt. And as I said before, this doesn't really fit around there because the wall of this switch is too close. So we could potentially use a Phillips screwdriver to remove these screws and remove the switch. I have tried this many times in the past on an older bike. These seem to be stuck in there and you end up rounding off the heads and it becomes a mess. So whether I'm working on a new bike like this one or an older bike, I prefer to devise a method that steers around having to remove these screws. So I'm going to use a 10mm open-ended and just crack this loose and take my time removing it. Once you get the threads past the locking feature of this nut, it becomes free to turn by hand. And now from the top, I'll use a 10mm socket. Once the pivot bolt clears the threads, it's free to come out, and then we remove the lever in a way that doesn't run the risk of bending this piston here for this clutch switch out of the way. Just have to make sure that you clear it out. And that's pretty much it. Like I said before, this is a brand new bike. It doesn't have much grime going on any of the bearing surfaces, so there's really no need to clean it. And if this were an older bike, I would recommend that you clean it out, make sure you get all the gunk out of there, and use some good bearing grease on all the surfaces. So we'll choose the clutch side of the Womet-Tech Evos levers. I will, in fact, throw a little bit of grease in there. All right, now on the way back in, once again, we have to get this cylindrical feature into the perch while making sure that we don't strain this button. Once you have good alignment here between the hole in the lever adapter and the perch, you'll be able to jiggle this pivot bolt until you bottom it out, thread against thread. Start the thread by hand, and then I'm going to use my 10mm socket to get that bottomed out. Okay, now I tighten this guy just a little bit too much. As you can see, it's seized in there. This is because you can actually pinch this perch around the lever. So now you have to make sure to back up just enough to free this lever and make sure it's free to rotate, but not jiggle up and down too much. This is precisely why we have the lock nut from the bottom, so that you can tighten down enough on the rotating parts and then preload the threads with a locking nut and make sure that it's all set in place without being pinched and being too tight. All right, that seems good. One more test, making sure we're not binding up. All right. It is actually pretty tight towards the top end of the stroke. So I'm just gonna back up a little bit more on this pivot bolt. All right, we're good. Now, basically go in the reverse order of disassembly. I will plug this back in. I will get my cable back in. Now, through my manipulation of this system, this barrel nut got out of place. So now I'm going to align all those slots once again, get my cable end in, and get my cable through the adjuster, through the perch, through everything, and back up on the barrel nut a little bit. We'll adjust that later. Now it'll be time to tighten this back in place. Now, if you're using Kawasaki stock bars, there is a punch mark here that aligns with a slot here. Fairly simple to spot. You can potentially adjust this perch to a different angle if that's what you like. This is a good opportunity to do that right now. I'm just going to put it back in stock position and make sure that our new lever is still in a position where it won't make any contact here. If it does, you'll then have to change the angle at which this sits on the bar, or perhaps change it inboard or outboard if you have the capability on aftermarket clip-ons. All right, now let's adjust the clutch real quick. We want to make sure that at full lock each way, you still have a little bit of play. So here we have play. Here we have a little bit less play. I like it. I think I could stand to make it just a little tighter. Let's see how that goes. That's good, and that's good. So I'm gonna lock down on the barrel nut. I typically just do this by hand. You can use pliers or whatnot. That'll be fine. Clean this up a little bit. I did have greasy hands. Let's be professionals here and leave the bike looking good. All right, now we've come to the adjustment portion. You have 6 levels of adjustment, the highest bar being the farthest out, this one being lowest. I would recommend to put it in the middle somewhere. Make sure that you can reach properly after you've installed both levers. Go around the block, test it out. Don't go too crazy until you figure out where it feels comfortable, And then subsequently, if you change your mind or if your needs change, you could always adjust it to a different place. All right, that's pretty much it for this side. I have to replace this strap here, which to me seems very optional. All right, now it's fully complete on this side. Let's hop on over to the brake side. All right, I'll be pleased to report to you guys that the brake side of this bike is cake. It's really, really easy. No clearance issues or anything. 10mm socket. We unlock the nut on the bottom. Nut comes off. And we go up top and loosen the pivot bolt. This guy clears out and the brake lever just comes out. You can see there's a bunch of nice grease on all these surfaces. Since I'm going to be using a slightly different grease, I'm going to clean this up and replace it with my grease. Again, like I said on the other side, if your bike is kind of old and it's been exposed to elements, please clean all this stuff off and make sure you grease it properly. You want to put some grease in on the rotating surfaces and also on the feature here that interfaces with the piston. Grab our new Womet-Tech Evos lever, grab some grease, and let's go. I'm gonna put a little bit of excess on here and then clean it up after the installation has been made. I do also grease these surfaces that actually interface with the master right here. Make sure I have grease on all of these internal surfaces. Clean off my thread. And let's go back in. Now, this is the surface here that presses on your brake switch. Make sure that you don't put any strain on that switch. Pay attention to how you're putting your lever back in and align the holes within the lever and the master. Once your pivot bolt engages thread there, you grab a tool and bottom that out. I want to make sure that it doesn't pinch. Again, like I showed you guys on the other side, you do want it decently tight, but not pinching. Your brake is your life-saving device, especially your front brake. This is your most important feature here up front in your controls. So you got to make sure that it's done properly. All right, full lock left, full lock right. We don't have any interference with any other parts. Clean up all of the external surfaces here. All right, we're looking good. Same thing, you'll want to pick which level works for you. I typically ride out pretty far. I use one finger or sometimes two fingers on brakes. My hands are pretty big, so this highest level really works well for me. Somebody with medium hands, it's going to be somewhere in the middle probably. Tiny hands will require a location that is closer to the bar. You can actually also change where your index finger falls on the lever by moving this outboard or inboard a little bit. What we have here on this master cylinder, it's in the middle of the adjustment range. You could actually bring it inboard a little bit if your finger is more comfortable here, or outboard if you tend to ride with your hand out on the grip a little bit. That's up to you. I just urge you guys to stay safe. Don't go ripping around too fast. As soon as you put these on, you want to be able to have some time to get adjusted to what you've just done. Again, making sure that you're safe. All right, that's pretty much it for the installation. I'm going to clean up here and we'll conclude.
And just like that, this installation is complete. As you can see, we've added some color and some style to the front of the Kawasaki. But more importantly, we have added improved functionality. We've slimmed down and gone with a shorty lever kit. And now the clutch lever has a 6-point adjustment along with the brake lever as well. Improved feel, improved looks, save some weight and some width. I think it's a win-win. So if you're interested in these levers or any other product for the KLX 230 or any other bike sitting in your garage, be sure to visit our website, tstindustries.com. The link to these levers will be in the description below. For now, this has been Mark from the TST Garage, and we will catch you next time.